welcome.
In this video, I'm talking about autism and wearing a mask. During this whole interesting time, you know, what to do? Do you have to wear the mask? All that's coming up. Hey guys, welcome back to the Aspie world. My name is Dan. I have autism, ADHD, OCD and dyslexia, and I make weekly videos on this type of content. So if you're new around here and you want to learn more, remember to hit that subscribe button by clicking the notification bell so you don't miss out on a video. And the same if you're watching over on Facebook, which is to give this page a like and a follow so you don't miss a video. Super important. Okay guys, so at the beginning of every video, I just like to read out a comment from somebody on my Instagram page. And if you want me to read out your comment, make sure you head over to Instagram, give me a follow and turn the notifications on, because I do exclusive content over on Instagram as well, and you can always hit me up in the DMs if you need anything. Okay, so Stefan Burdett asked, what camera do you use and what software do you use as well? Well, for the camera, I'm using a Canon 750D with a, currently using the stock lens, but I do have a wide angle 10mm lens. And for my software, I'm actually using a mixture of Final Cut Pro and LumaFusion on the iPad Pro. Okay, so next question here is from Stuart Georgina, and they said, how do you cope if you get overwhelmed but can't leave the situation? And it's a great question, and I guess the answer to that would be very simply, I kind of close my eyes, I try and calm myself down by breathing, and I explained this in a video I did as well, where I breathe in for 5, I hold it for 5, and then I breathe out for 5, and I do that 5 times, and it really calms me down. Or I put my fingers in my ears and kind of block everything out and just do the breathing, because you want to kind of reset your senses a little bit, and that's the best way to do it. Okay, so you know what to do. If you want to be on my radar, make sure you head over to Instagram and give me a cheeky follow on there. Okay guys, so wearing a mask for autism, or autism and mask wearing on public transport. Now, here in the UK, I don't know what it's like in America, but here in the UK, new legislation came out for the whole COVID-19 issue. And the legislation was basically that they wanted to implement mask wearing on public transport, so it became a mandatory obligation. So the new rules are basically simple. If you're going on public transport, you have to wear a mask. This helps stop the spread of the virus. Now, this has been implemented because of some of the studies that were taken in South Korea at the time, when people actually implemented mask wearing from day one, and they had like a very reduced contraction rate, which was exactly what everybody wants. Everyone wants the thing to go away so we can get back to normal as quickly as possible. Now, there are two major issues with this when it comes down to people on the autism spectrum, and this, and some disabled people in general. People who are, hard of hearing or deaf, maybe relying on lip reading. But if you're wearing a mask, then they won't be able to hear you or see your lip reading, which is a very difficult thing to kind of like navigate from. So that's one way to do it. But they have kind of introduced like, clear parts to the mask. So like this is like material around here, and then where your mouth is kind of clear, so you can talk to people and then understand what you're saying with with lip reading. But for people with an autism spectrum disorder, there may be a bunch of issues with this. One is that wearing a mask on your face may be a scary thing, because if you're not used to it, not in your routine, it could be quite scary just having this mask on your face the whole time. I know from my experience that implementing new things like this, it was scary when I first happened to start wearing a mask to the store or going out for a jog. It was really, really difficult because it was something I wasn't used to. Not only that, it was seriously sensory triggering on the back of my ears and here on my face, and it still is actually. And so there are workarounds which I'll go through in a minute. I'm going to go through like a list of things that you can do, if you have to wear a mask or if you don't have to wear a mask, ways that you can keep yourself safe, because somebody asked this question and it's a freaking great question. So people might actually have sensory issues where you might not like the material of the mask, and wearing a mask is like sensory overloading for you. And so because of people on the autism spectrum with said sensory issues, there is not a mandatory issue where if you're on the spectrum, you have the ability to not wear a mask, and you can get a small little insert from, I think, the National Autistic Society or your local health board, which is small, like a little card that fits into your wallet, and you can carry that around with you in case you get tackled by authorities to say that you don't have to wear the face mask, because it's not a legal requirement for people on the autism spectrum, which is a good thing and potentially a bad thing, because it's a good thing that you don't have to do that, because it may be able to stop you having a super meltdown and all those issues that come with wearing a mask. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, well, how do I how do I keep safe? So somebody reached out to me either on my Facebook DMs or on an Instagram DM. Again, another reason for you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram, because we can have these DM chats. And they asked, hey, you know, how do I stay safe and well if I'm not going to wear a mask? Because they wanted to go out and do, you know, go on public transport to work or school or whatever it is you're going to, but they are autistic and they are not, you know, happy wearing a mask because of the whole sensory issue, so they can't wear a mask. So what do you do if you can't wear a mask? Well, I'm going to go through two lists. I'm going to go through some ideas that if you do want to wear a mask but you have sensory issues, or if you prefer not to wear a mask and you want to be as safe as possible. So we'll go through the with the mask scenarios, things you can do to help, and then we'll go through the not wearing a mask scenarios, how you can reduce the risk of contraction and all those types of things. So buckle up, let's get it done. Boom, yeah. Okay, so if you fancy wearing a mask, I would say that try to find a cool mask design, something that is like really cool, like if it's just black, or maybe one of your favorite like cartoon characters on it, or maybe like a movie. There are so many masks available now that like in cool logos and cool styles that you can become comfortable with it. Because if it's something cool and you feel like it looks good on you, then you might be more inclined to wear it. Now, if you're like worried about going out and remembering to take your mask, I actually had the same issue, and I actually used the app Teemo to remind me when to take the mask out. So say you're leaving your house every single day at like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m, then you can set your Teemo app, which is an awesome app designed specifically for people on the autism spectrum with autism and ADHD, and then you set the settings in the app to remind you through your Apple Watch that you need to take your mask with you on, you know, today's visit or whatever you're doing, you know, going to work or whatever. It's very, very awesome, and it's highly useful, and I highly recommend checking out Teemo with the link in the description below. They're awesome. I've worked with them for a while now, and they're just an amazing company. Please check them out. The second thing is try out different fabrics of masks. I actually have 3 different types of masks in my house because I wanted to try out different ones. I tried the surgical ones first, and I did like these, you know, the N4 filter ones, and then we actually settled with this very interesting snood, which is kind of like it's like a scarf, like a very tight-fitting scarf that you pull over your face, and that's kind of like a mask, but that's got like a protein barrier on the inside, which actually reflects the coronavirus. It's actually leading the world at the moment for this the cure against it. But the thing is, it's cool about this mask is that you can actually stand next to somebody and you don't have to social distance, because this protein barrier actually helps with that, which is just absolutely fantastic. But in terms of that mask, I found that one softer and it was easier to wear, and it's nicer because you can just like pull it down and pull it up, and it doesn't press on your ears, and it's not pressing on your nose. It's just like a light material, as you can see in the cutaways I've just done here now. So let's go over, if you are not wearing a mask, how do you keep yourself safe and keep the contraction to a 0? So there are different things that you can do to ensure that if you're not comfortable wearing a mask but you do want to be safe, how do you do it? So the first one is to wear gloves. Wear gloves if you can get access to them. You know, you can either wear cotton gloves and then wash them when you get in, put them in the washing machine, or hand wash them, whatever it is you do to wash them, or you can like buy surgical gloves, like latex gloves, and then you can just use those for a while. You know, when you're out and about, use those. They're disposable, so you just like, you know, you buy a box, I think you get like 100 pairs in a box, so it's kind of cool because you can just use those and then throw them away. That's another way to make sure that you get no contraction through your hands. Don't touch your face or eyes, because if you touch your face and your eye, if you're out and about, you touch stuff, and then you touch your mouth or your eyes, then you could be potentially contracting droplets of the virus from somebody else who may potentially have it. So if you avoid eye contact and with your hands and mouth contact with your hands, that's a very, very good one to do it. Now, the other thing is that when you come in from being outside, wash your hands for 20 seconds, you know, with soap and water, and just, you know, be quite thorough with the way that you wash your hands, because by doing that, you're going to be able to wash away any of the potential bacteria or virus that you may have contracted on your hands. And I also advise, once you've washed your hands, then wash your face, and then maybe just rinse your hands again, just to make sure, as like a precaution. I know it's overkill, but if you're not wearing a mask and you're not wearing gloves, then this may be a way that you could definitely help yourself be protected there. So the other one is keep the 2-meter social distancing rule. So there's a 2-meter social distance gap that everybody has to adhere to, right? No matter where you are in the world, 2 meters is the standard. Now, a lot of people kind of ignore this and it gets lapsy-daisy, and this is one way where you can slip up and actually contract the virus because you're not keeping to that distance. And the reason the distance is there is because the droplets can't travel that far, especially outside. Now, if you specifically strictly follow those rules of the social distancing 2-meter rules, if you make sure that you're very strict with it, then you are going to be in no danger whatsoever, because you know that you've not come in contact with a human close enough to contract the virus, other than the people in your household who, you know, probably, well, they live with you, don't they? So you're not going to contract it from them because you would have normally had it anyway. And then the other thing is to avoid public gatherings or avoid public places. Now I know this may not be ideal because you have to go grocery store shopping, but if you can do it online, try that. And then when you get your groceries from the people, then you wash them all down with, you know, an antibacterial wipe, and then you wash your hands again. You know, the same process, just make sure everything's like super clean. But avoiding public places, like if you don't need to go to the store, don't go for like a day out. You know, don't go to the park where there may be like lots of people walking about. Try to avoid busy shopping malls or busy stores, because at the end of the day, they're the places that are going to have the most people with the most virus, you know, contamination and carrying it. So it's going to be a difficult one to navigate around, but I'm pretty sure there's loads of things now, especially like you get different apps. You've got like, I think it's like Ship It as well, and you've got Deliveroo, and there's loads of apps that will deliver your stuff. And most of the actual grocery stores themselves have delivery services anyway. So you kind of, you know, the frontline workers, that's what they're there to do. They're there to you know, make sure you get your shopping in a safe and orderly manner. So rely on those services because they're there to be used, and I highly recommend checking them out. Guys, if you have anything to add to this video, pop in a comment down below. I'd love to know your thoughts on this specific topic, and that'd be super awesome. Right guys, I'm gonna go. See you in the next video, guys.